At first, no one paid attention to the dog barking at the funeral. It was just noise, grief, nerves, until the casket moved. That's when everything changed. The girl they thought was dead wasn't. And the mutt no one cared about? He was the only one who knew she was still alive, screaming for help from inside the box. The sky was gray like wet concrete, cold light, no wind. Clover Hill Cemetery sat quiet under the early morning chill. Frost still clung to the grass. Dozens of mourners stood in dark coats and muted dresses, their breath visible in the air. Some held each other. Most just stared at the polished mahogany casket resting above the open grave. It was a closed casket service, the kind where people don't say why, but everyone knew why. Molly Palmer, 24, local girl, car crash victim, dead on impact, or so they said. The priest began to speak, soft-voiced, scripted words. Though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death. A few sniffles. One woman dabbed her nose. Someone coughed. The rest stayed quiet. Then came the barking. At first, it was faint, distant. A sharp, staccato echo from the tree line near the cemetery fence. Then it got louder. People turned, distracted. There, by the edge of the trees, stood a dog. Medium-sized yellow coat with a white chest and torn blue collar. Thin. Dirty. Eyes locked on the grave. He barked again. And again. Fast. Insistent. Pacing in place. Darting forward, then back, like he couldn't decide whether to charge in or run away. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Whose dog is that? Should we do something? Just ignore it. He'll go away. The priest paused, glanced up, tried to stay composed. Let us remember Molly's light. But the dog wouldn't stop. One mourner, a boy, maybe 16, shaggy hair and a suit jacket 2 sizes too big, stepped forward a little, squinting. That's her dog, he said, quiet but certain. That's Lucky. The people around him looked confused. Her dog? He died in the crash. No. He ran off. They never found him. The dog barked again, now louder, sharper. Then he stopped dead still. Tail dropped low. Head turned slightly, and that's when it happened. The casket moved. Just a twitch. A barely there bump against the lowering strap. A ripple of unease passed through the crowd. Some people froze. Others blinked like they weren't sure what they saw. The priest stopped again, words hanging mid-air. What was that? Nobody answered. The dog gave one short bark, then fell silent. The wind returned just enough to rattle the flowers stacked on the lid. Then the casket moved again, this time harder, a thud. Every head turned. No one spoke. No one laughed. Someone dropped a cup of coffee. It hit the ground with a dull splash. The boy whispered again, voice hoarse. She's not dead. The casket didn't move again for a few seconds. But the silence it left behind was louder than anything. Nobody coughed. Nobody shifted. Even the priest stood frozen, hands still holding the prayer book mid-verse. Then came the murmurs. Low, uneven, nervous. Did that just... I saw it move. Maybe the wind? It's too heavy for the wind. Wasn't just me, right? The boy, Tyler, stood at the edge of the group now, closer to the grave than anyone else. He looked pale but certain. I told you, he said. That's her dog, Lucky. He was in the car with her. A middle-aged woman, maybe Molly's aunt, shook her head. No, they said he ran off. He did, Tyler said. But he came back. The dog barked again. Once. Quick. Then silence. All eyes shifted toward the casket. Jack, Molly's uncle, mid-40s, flannel jacket, thick shoulders, took a step forward. His hands were clenched, not in anger, in something worse. Disbelief. "I saw her," he said, his voice cracking. I helped ID the body. That was her." "She was in a coma," Tyler said, his voice quiet but firm. "They said she was brain dead, but what if—" "Stop," the priest cut in, trying to regain control. "Let's not let grief cloud reason. The funeral must continue." But no one was listening to him anymore. Then came the third sound. Not a shift, not a twitch, a knock, a solid, unmistakable thump from inside the casket. It wasn't loud, but it was human. Half the crowd backed up. Someone gasped. An older woman grabbed the arm of the man next to her and said, "No, no, this isn't happening." The priest dropped his book. Jack took another step forward, voice low and hard now. "Open it." "You can't be serious," said the funeral director. "I am serious," Jack snapped. "She's knocking. We can't just— She's not dead." The dog gave one long, mournful howl, the kind you feel in your chest more than your ears. That's what broke the last bit of denial. Jack climbed up on the lowering platform, pressed his palm flat against the lid. Everyone watched. Nothing. Then, tap. Just under his hand. His eyes went wide. "I felt that," he whispered. "I felt her." By now, no one was breathing normally. People stood frozen in place, some crying, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Others just stared at the coffin like it might explode open at any second. Jack's hand stayed pressed to the lid. Still. Then, another tap. Not wild, not desperate. Just one measured knock. Like someone trying to be heard. A man in a black vest near the grave's edge spoke for the first time. "If she's alive in there, and we don't open it—" He didn't finish the sentence. The funeral director stepped forward, suit pressed, face pale. "Sir, we legally cannot—" "You think I care about paperwork right now?" Jack snapped. "That's my niece in there." Tyler, the teenage boy, was already halfway to the van where the grounds crew kept tools. "They've got a pry bar," he yelled, already opening the side door. The dog, Lucky, let out another soft bark. Not urgent this time, just present, watching, waiting. A crew member handed Jack the crowbar with trembling hands. "God help us," he muttered. Jack climbed fully onto the platform and wedged the bar under the lid. Another man climbed up beside him. Together they pulled. Crack. The seal gave way. The first inch of air that escaped wasn't foul. It was cold, empty. The casket had only been closed for half a day. Thank God. They lifted the lid slowly, inch by inch, until— Gasps. Hands flew to mouths. Molly Palmer lay inside, her skin ghostly pale, lips bluish but twitching. Her fingers moved. Slight, but real. Her eyes fluttered open, weak, disoriented. She blinked hard, light hitting her like it hadn't in days. Her lips parted. A dry, hoarse sound scraped its way out. "Jack?" Jack dropped the crowbar. He knelt beside her, tears already falling, one hand gently cupping the side of her face. "You're okay. Molly, you're okay." She coughed. Once. Shallow. They said I was gone." "You were almost gone," Jack whispered. "But he brought you back." He turned his head, looked past the mourners, toward the dog. Lucky stood absolutely still at the cemetery gate, watching, just like he had all along. The ambulance came with the sirens off, out of respect. Paramedics rolled across the frozen grass, speaking in quick, clipped voices. They brought heat blankets, oxygen, and disbelief. One of them, a woman in her 30s with tight blonde hair under her cap, paused mid-check. "She's responsive," she whispered. "Pulse is slow, but stable." The other medic blinked. "Wait, she's really alive?" Jack nodded, eyes still wet. "She spoke to me." They loaded Molly onto the stretcher with care, as if she were glass. Her fingers trembled, lips cracked, but she kept whispering, "Lucky, Lucky." The dog hadn't moved, still sitting at the gate, like he knew his job wasn't done yet. Tyler crouched down next to him. "You knew, didn't you?" Lucky didn't bark, just looked at him, ears down, breathing steady. The funeral director stood off to the side now, holding his head in both hands. The priest sat silently on a bench nearby, eyes lowered, prayer book forgotten in the grass. Molly's mother rushed to the stretcher as it wheeled by. "Molly, baby, I thought—" Molly blinked, reached out slowly, her voice dry and broken. I heard you. At the hospital. You cried. You said goodbye." Her mom broke, just collapsed into sobs. The medic raised an eyebrow. "Wait, you heard her?" Molly nodded, barely. "They said I was brain dead, but I was still in there. I heard them talk. I felt the cold. I just couldn't move." The second medic shook his head. "Catalepsy. Could have been that. Rare, but real. Coma-like state. Breath and heart slow. Body shuts down." The blonde medic frowned. "She could have suffocated in that casket." "Would have," said Jack, "if it weren't for the damn dog." Every head turned again to Lucky. And now, finally, he moved. Quietly, gently. He trotted forward on the frost-covered grass, walked right up to the stretcher, and pressed his nose to Molly's hand. Her fingers curled weakly, touched his fur. "I knew you'd come," she whispered. Lucky licked her wrist, once, then sat beside the stretcher like he belonged there. Later, the story spread like wildfire. Local woman wakes up in coffin, saved by her own dog. Some called it a miracle. Some called it science, but the town knew what it really was. It was loyalty. It was instinct. It was a dog who never stopped barking, because he refused to let the world bury someone who still had a heartbeat.